Hey, 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 it's Sarah Jane. I'm coming to you a little later than normal today, but I really wanted to invite you into examining your personal boundaries. So I hope you stay to the end, as I have a beautiful invitation to offer you that is completely free and will change your people-pleasing tendencies and bust you out of your old codependent and abusive patterns of addictions. And if you're wondering if you have any of those, stay tuned. And while we're waiting for everybody to come in, today is Wellness Wednesday. And I actually was like, because I live in the joy of my business as my life, I don't really take time off, linear time. But I realized that we're actually almost at the end of April. And in South Africa, we have a holiday on May Day, the old May Day, which is now called Freedom Day. And as it's sort of coming back, and I've had a lot of feedback over the last couple of days about people saying that it's really helped them. To look at some of the old videos that I did around gaslighting and boundary setting, and also to know if you're being verbally abused. So thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it when you tell me what you're liking and what you want to hear more of. And this whole month, as most of you who follow me know, we've been very much in this sort of divisive contrast of Aries energy and Chiron, where Chiron, the wounded healer, has been really shaking up a lot of these sort of old wounds that are ready to be healed, and that's been a bit chaotic right now. So again, thank you. If you haven't watched my videos on gaslighting, go to my YouTube channel and take a look around, because I really don't want to beat around the bush here. I know how precious your time is, but I want to speak a little bit about setting boundaries, because it's essential to your well-being as much as you're breathing in air and you're drinking beautiful live water and you're nourishing your body with good live healthy food. And I've been up to my elbows today in cooking for my dogs, who one is a Vata, very air sign like me, my Great Dane, and the other one, Daisy, is very much Kapha, so she's very grounded into her energy and tends to put on weight quite easily. And she's only got 3 legs; she's missing a back leg, so she's really thriving on this diet, very species appropriate diet, because I know the value of feeding animals live food. I've lost too many animals through subpar kibble in the past. And if you want to know more about how to feed your dogs raw food and live food and slow cooked food, take the Dasha quiz over at sarahjanefarrell.com and let me know. Hi, Gail. Nice to see you here. If you have any questions about today's topic, please post them in the comments. I'm trying out BeLive, which is a new platform to do my live Facebooks from, and I know I've been a bit absent lately in my people space, so of helping kind people to heal from trauma, so that they can live happy, fulfilled lives. And I wanted to really speak about this because so many of you have been asking, and it's been coming up a lot in sessions. And I want you to have the breakthroughs this month as we sort of head into May, my birthday month. Just remember, you already know the truth. And I love that quote by Steve Jobs that says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future, and you have to trust in something, right? And my whole business is built around trust as a very solid foundation on which to build your life, because if you can't trust you, then you can't trust in other people and in life and in God and in abundance and in a very forgiving world. So whatever it is for you, just know that in relationships, your boundaries are where you end and where other people begin. And I'll say that again. We respond to our environment, and you can't go through a day unless you're living in a bubble or a vacuum. And let's face it, you can't meditate yourself into abundance. It takes training and it takes work. And we're constantly responding or that's the aim, is to get you to a place where you are not reactive, right? You're not having your buttons pushed all the time. And that we have to define that the way you respond to the needs and thoughts and feelings and behaviors of others is all in the power of choice. You get to choose. And I love Don Miguel Ruiz. He's one of my favorites. If you read the 4 agreements or the 5 agreements, one of them is don't take everything personally. And I want to really clear that up too, because it is personal, right? We have to honor our own autonomy and respect ourselves enough to value who we are and what we're doing and being and showing up with it in life. You know, your most valuable asset is you. And if you can't see that and trust that, people are going to walk all over you. And I get it. You know, the deepest act of self-care that there is making yourself your number one priority. And even on a grander scale, the way that you relate to yourself and to life and to that thing that some of us call God or divine or the universe, it's all on you. So it is personal. Okay. So I know for me, my life has transformed in countless ways because of my practice. And it is a practice. It's daily. It's minute by minute. It's 1 degree shifts at a time in setting and honoring boundaries, which was very new to me. You know, 17 years ago, truth be told, I used to allow people to walk all over me, probably since I was a little person. And I didn't know how to stand up for myself. And I didn't know what I believed in because I was this chameleon. I was the most amazing shapeshifter of all time. And yes, it may have served me well then, but it isn't who I am now. So I know, and I really want to encourage you to know that you have to prioritize yourself. I prioritize what everybody else's needs were over what I needed. And I was too afraid to ask. I was changing from blue to purple like a chameleon all the time. And I remember my brother-in-law, when I was all of probably 22 years old, and I asked him, you know, why don't you like me? All I wanted was people to like me. And because of that, I used to give up my trusting in myself for fear of being abandoned because that was my story. And he said, Sarah Jane, I never know who you are. And I got it on some degree, but I had a lot still to learn. Depending on what company I kept, I wasn't the same person. I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't in my true nature. And I didn't even know boundaries were a thing until my whole life kind of fell through the bottomless pit of hell 17, 18 years ago. You know, and what I did know is how I felt. And I say this over and over again, is that you have to be willing to feel in order to heal. Okay. I felt betrayed. I felt distrustful. I felt used and I felt abused many, many times, but I still didn't know how to say not today or no thanks, rain check. Can we do it another day? Because I had this underlying fear of being judged. And more than that, of being rejected, of being cast out. And that's pretty much been one of my soul wounds, is to find a way to return to trust where I'm willing to go no matter who follows. So if any of you can relate to that, hi, Katie West, give me a hell yes in the comments. Lovely that you're feeding your babies raw. Yeah, it's amazing. And yes, Shanae, I have 5 cats. One of them is blind. He came to me blind. He was an elderly cat and they're all adopted. And I had to, you know, this has been part of the beautiful journey and the gifts that they have given to me. Each one of them is that not our needs are not the same. And that we need to respond in a way that's loving and an ill allowance for our bodies and our minds and our hearts and our spirits to thrive. So they've all been such great teachers on my journey back to living on purpose. And that's really what I want to talk to today, Because if you know what it feels like to feel disappointed, to feel distrust, to like you can't trust anybody, to feel like you're never going to be able to open your heart or keep your heart open, and literally rub salt in the wound over and over again. One of my favorite quotes, and I digress a little bit, is that, and this is really where I live from, is that to be fully alive, to be fully human and completely awake, you can't go back to sleep once you're awake. And yes, it is painful, and yes, it's brutal, and it's beautiful, and it's brutal and beautiful, and it's all of that and everything in between. But we have to continually be thrown out of the nest and know that we're going to pick ourselves up again. This is resilience. This is about braving the wilderness, as Brene Brown talks about. And for me, my life really has been like to live fully. It has been to wander in no woman's land. It's just like finding, where do I fit? Where do I light myself up? Where do I feel that I can experience each and every moment as completely new and fresh without taking judgment and the old story with it. You know, for me, it's being willing to die the pity mort over and over again, because that's how we grow. It's part of our human nature. And it's not about feeling like we're ever going to get over something, including grief, including loss. And that it's being willing to actually use all the emotions in a healthy way, like movement. It's a governed by wood. Anger is governed by wood. Liver and gallbladder. It's about a hinge. It's a seesaw effect of knowing that when you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you have no choice, that your body's going to tell you when you're out of alignment. And oh my gosh, you know, the amount of times where anger for me pulsed through me like red hot lava. It was like what I call my red hot and holy moments. It took me a long time to be willing to not be afraid of getting angry, because my standard operating procedure was always to push down all of that potency of anger to move me through and remove people and obstacles that weren't aligned with where I was going out of my way. And so I got depressed, and I got hypervigilant, and I got angry. And then when I did, the resentment boiled over like this pot filled with too much water and pasta at the same time. And it's exhausting, isn't it? When your soul is deep and it's splintered and it's sharp and you're broken into a million tiny pieces, and you wonder, how am I ever going to get back to being in my true nature? And for me, I knew that something had to give, and it eventually did. 3 snapped Achilles tendons, because my body was saying, you're not going to run anymore, or you need to run and you need to stop being in this atrophied state. So one of my body's beautiful lessons that weren't so beautiful in the moment were to really keep me in the moment, in the now, and to show me where, you know, again, wood element in Chinese medicine governs tendons and ligaments. So when you're feeling stiff, or you feel like you can't even stretch out or move through that, you want to look at, you know, what does anger want to show you here? And for me, I've stumbled my way along and through. And at first, I made so many mistakes along the way, until I realized, because I love the words and the play on words as the spelling, as the alchemists that we are, we're spelling into existence our thoughts, feelings, and emotions all the time. And I didn't realize that a mistake is part of my journey to expand. It's all of our journey to expand, is to look at it as, oh, I took something, I tried it on, it was a take that I misidentified as something else. Isn't that a better way of looking at things, rather than making yourself wrong and beating yourself up? To look at every mistake as a gift. It's your dark gifts that we're looking at in the shadows today. And I didn't know how to be compassionate and kind when I set boundaries, or the difference between a boundary and a freaking brick wall. I was one of those that had to hit my head against a brick wall many, many times before I actually got it. So again, it's like some of us, we all learn at our own pace, and we get it when we get it. And I can remember yelling that primal scream more times than I'd like to admit. And I did a lot of reactiveness instead of responsiveness, which is much kinder and more gentle. And, you know, since we're all about the ease and the grace around here, I want to share with you what I've learned in my practice so that you can apply it to your own life. So I wanted to just start by saying, take a deep breath. You know, thank you for joining me here. It makes a huge difference for me to have you join me here. And Shanae says, definitely can relate to your past. Always trust my body to let me know if something is right or wrong. And isn't that beautiful? Because your body never lies, but your body will follow your mind. So we have to be mindful all the time, don't we, Shanae, of really following our body's natural impulses and not head trip, not get ourselves in this place where we think that we can figure it out from a mental point of view or a very frontal lobotomy point of view, and really drop down deep into our body, into our heart, to ask, what would love do? So thank you for sharing that, Shanae. I'm so glad that you get it. And hi, Katie. Nice to see you here. If you have any questions or you're relating to this topic, just say yes, or write what you'd like me to speak more to, because this is really what this is about. I'm not here to speak to myself, although as a verbal processor, that is part of the way. I'm very auditory in my psychic capacities, and I learn and grow through verbal expression of spelling into the world. And it's always so much better when there's somebody to catch that and grow with me, and also to tell me when enough is enough. That's one of the biggest lessons that I've had in this lifetime. So I wanted to start by clarifying the difference between setting a boundary and the manipulation or the bullying of an ultimatum, and also the straight up emotional manipulation, which I've spoken about on other videos. So let's just say, for example, that you have a friend who calls you at all hours of the night just to chat, or another one of those is, someone that really wants to work and learn and grow with you. And they say, could you just meet me for a coffee? I just want to run something by you. And it took me a long time to actually say, no, that doesn't work for me. But if you really are serious about doing this, book a session and I'll be happy to support you. It took me ages to get that right, because I used to just, be everything to everyone and then wonder why I was so resentful and so pissed off in other areas of my life. Because remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. So to start with, let's just clear up setting a boundary. For me, setting a boundary would be telling my friend or family that I don't want to receive their phone calls after 8 o'clock, that's my downtime. And if someone does call me after that time, that I just won't pick up. And it's not personal. This is the thing too. It's just like, I used to be available at every hour of the night. Because I was up. I have a dolphin brain, if you know your chronotypes, where half of my brain when I'm sleeping is awake anyway. So I work all night anyway. And I had to really learn too, from an energetic standpoint, to say to all the beings that didn't have bodies that were moving through my bedroom at night, to say, hey, you know what? These are my office hours. Make an appointment, show up in a body and pay me. And it was funny. I think humor is also a great way to help us to move through some of our old patterns and pathways of self-flagellation and abuse. But it really, really worked. And when I do that, I get to sleep better. So, I also do a lot of gestalt tracking of missing animals between 2 and 3 in the morning, but that's a little bit different. That's a boundary where I am setting the intention that when the earth is quiet, that's the time where I can hear animals that are in distress or that I am tracking that are missing to come through and find me, because our minds are so busy the rest of the night. So, notice that this boundary has 2 parts. So if you're doing this thing, I'm going to do this. So set boundaries, give yourself time to be with your family. to just unwind, to read a good book, or do some meditation, or take a beautiful Epsom salt bath with some beautiful essential oils in it, and unwind, so that by 10 o'clock, which is peak of gallbladder time, we get to really digest the day. And by, 12 to 1 is peak of liver time. And that's the general of your whole body system. So your liver needs you to prepare like you would a baby to go to bed, so that by that time you're hopefully fast asleep, and your liver gets to assimilate and decide what to keep and what to get rid of. So that's a little bit about boundaries. The other side of that is the ultimatums. So it is similar to a boundary, except that it's very final. It's enough is enough. And just my personality and my makeup, my dosha, being very airy, is that for me, you need to push and push and push. So I kind of give people a lot of rope before I actually fly off the handle and go, you know what, enough is enough. So you have to look at that finality of it and know that it's rooted in poor boundaries to begin with, right? Because actually it's anger turned inward, or at least that's my awareness of that. So if that makes sense, let me know. Definitely sometimes get into a spin. And as you say, take a breath, and then you know what's true. Absolutely. Thank you, Shanae, for that. I love playing with you guys. And Debbie says a mistake is a gift. Absolutely. It's a mistake. Unless we try something on, we're not going to know whether it's aligned or whether it's right for us or not. So I love that you love that, Debbie. And I'm so glad that this is resonating with you. Yeah. We got to stop the blaming and shaming, because that is the anger turned inward, where it becomes toxic and it becomes poisonous, and we actually do eat ourselves up from the inside out. So, this is where, for me, an example of this ultimatum kind of stuff is that I don't ever want it to get to the point where I actually feel like I'm out of congruency with my truth. But I have many, many times, and I'm still learning, just like the rest of you. Sometimes I feel like my training wheels never came off. But just think of it like, say, for that example of your friend, an ultimatum might be answering the phone every time that they call, and then you're seething about it inside, and then one day you just snap and you just let rip, and you're yelling at them, and you're telling them that they're so rude, and never to call you again, and it's not very kind. But this is what happens when we're not holding space for our yeses and to know our nos. So notice that an ultimatum still has two parts, but the way that you approach it is totally different. And this is where my deal and deliver, which is what I'm going to invite you into joining me on the last evening of April, because May the 1st in South Africa is Freedom Day. And this is really all about giving yourself the freedom, saying yes, giving yourself permission to set yourself free from obligation, from codependency, from relationships that are not kind and compassionate to you or the other person. It's abusive when we're not standing in our truth. So just know that the way that you approach everything is choice, and an ultimatum is very different to setting boundaries. So for me, setting boundaries is very proactive. It's responsiveness, and it's very grounded in my responsibility to myself, the self-love, where I can actually say no and stop, putting my hand up uncontrollably when anybody says, oh, could you, I had this happen the other day. People know that I do a lot of work with animals, and, I'm always kind of the first point of call to say, oh, we're leaving the country, or, my husband's suddenly allergic to the dog, and won't you take the dog from me? And I find that still very difficult to say no, because I have the animals' livelihood at heart, and I care. But, kind people need to have good boundaries too, because if we don't, and this is where we go into reactiveness of ultimatums, and we lay blame, and we do shame, and we don't take accountability for our own actions. So, I'm going to speak a lot deeper into this on a free webinar, as I said, on the end of April, so day before 1st of May. And I hope that you join me for that, because I'm going to go really deep and I'm going to give you my deal and deliver, which a lot of people have paid a lot of money to me, including corporations and big organizations, to teach their staff how to know what is the deal and can you deliver. So it goes quite deep into braving in a very gentle, beautiful way of languaging in a way that you can stay in your truth and honor yourself and honor your no as much as your yes. And give the other person the freedom to choose something different, okay, if they're in that sort of tripwire of codependency or manipulation or narcissistic and codependent relationships. So I will post that after this, but I just wanted to really jump in here quickly before I go off and wash all this this cabbage and sweet potato and sticky pumpkin that I've been chopping up all day for my dogs. So the third part of this that I wanted to talk to was about ultimatums. My tongue is really twisted today. Ultimatums and emotional manipulation. Maybe I should have another sip of wine. Cheers, guys. So just know, ultimatums and emotional manipulation are very similar in that they stem from making other people responsible for your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And you go, oh, I can't be happy until you're happy. So you're constantly giving yourself up because you're waiting for somebody else to tell you what to do, or you're trying to get your cue of somebody else's body language, or the way that they're reacting to the world. And I know I have a very reactive Aries partner who used to really trigger me all the time. And it didn't matter how much I would say to him, please don't do this. This is bringing up a lot of, heart palpitations about how my father was so abusive. He was a verbal bully. And he couldn't hear me. So remember too, in all of this is that you've got to look at what can this person hear and not waste your breath or your time or drain your energy trying to get somebody to see your point of view. And my mantra for the last 2 years has been nothing to hide, nothing to prove. So, in that same case that we were looking at with digressing from sleep time, or that you're not taking calls after a certain time of the day, it might also look like making threats of not being their friend in the hopes that they will scare them into not calling. And I certainly don't want to go there. And I probably have a couple of times. But what I'm trying to say here is that you're trying to make them feel a certain way to appease your own needs. Does that make sense? Give me a yes if you can relate to that. And those of you that know me, I don't do quick Facebook lives because I don't. So, and if you're listening to this on the replay, know that you can come back to it any time. But before we move on, I want to be really clear that I place no moral judgment or emotional manipulation or ultimations, that's a new word, on anyone, or at least I'd like to think that I don't. But I know I trip up often, and I often find myself going into that place of projections and assumptions, which is why I love my shadow dancing class. And some of you who are on here have taken that course. And it's just a whole different way of looking at right relationship with yourself, and also being willing to dance within the contrasts of everything and nothing. So just know, it's part of our human nature that every action is always an attempt to meet our need. And it's in our makeup, it's in our DNA, in our reptilian brain to move away from pain and toward pleasure. And a lot of times we'll do whatever we need to get our needs met. So we often resort to behaviors that aren't truly in alignment. And I'm totally guilty of that. But it doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you human, right? It makes you human being, your energy and emotion. And sometimes we make mistakes. We take things and we try them on, and we realize that didn't really work for you. And it certainly didn't work for the outcome that you wanted to get. And I just think that being human is why we all came here to this beautiful blue planet called Earth, to grow and expand and to be better, because we all want better. So now that we have that out of the way, I want to just share with you some of the signs, some of the red flags that will help you to know that it's time for you to set good, solid, healthy boundaries. So number one is that if you're finding yourself taking responsibility for other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions and actions, or making them responsible for you, if you believe that you can somehow make other people like you, holy crap, did I do that a lot, by doing what they want, or that you can somehow save yourself from the judgment of others by diminishing, right, by dimming your light down, by biting your tongue and not speaking your truth, it will kill you. One way or another, it will kill you. And here's the truth, other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions and actions are about them. They're not about you. Your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions are about you. And you need to take accountability for that. You need to be responsible. And you need to do the work. You need to do the daily training. And you're not always gonna kind of catch yourself before you go into a mistake, right? And that's fine too. But don't go into that toxic shame or anger or, shaming of yourself and self-loathing because you screwed up. It happens. It's called being human. But know this, that if you don't set boundaries because you're afraid of what other people are going to think about you or what might happen as a reaction or a response to you standing in your truth, you're going to make yourself really, really sick, and you are fighting a losing battle. So just stop, okay? This is where you need to sometimes push pause on the world, realign yourself to your North Star, to your mission, vision, and purpose, and know where you came from. This is what I love about spiritual astrology. By knowing your North and your South nodes, your South node is where you've come from. It's all the experiences, all the karma that you've experienced in other lifetimes and chosen to incarnate into this life, in this body, at this time to do better, right? That's the North node. So if you don't know what those are, ask me or book a clarity call. I'd be happy to let you know the powerful transformations that my clients have gotten. And I've done this process with thousands of people, the mindfulness change process. The pathways to purpose is in your map, but you also have the choice to edit your Akashic record. And you can find lots of guided meditations about that on my SoundCloud account. So I want to move this along because I love Blue Bloods and it's on today. And I want to go and have a nice bath and just chill out and watch Tom Selleck in all his yumminess. So no, the second red flag is that if you're angry and resentful and you're pissed off all the time, if you've got a short fuse and you're just lashing out at people that just happen to be in the way, anger and frustration are your clearest indicators that your boundaries have been crossed, that you're not safe, that you're being threatened. So if you're harboring a lot of anger and you have a tendency to step into rage where you just see red straight away, flipping people off in traffic, yelling at people or worse, that's a really good indication. That's your body, your canary in the coal mine that's saying you're out of touch. You have transgressed on your own boundaries. And I just find most of the time when I really get honest with myself, I know that when I'm pissed off at somebody else, I'm actually angry at myself because I have transgressed in a boundary or I have let myself down. Nobody gets to do that to you. We're really good at doing that to ourselves. So, it's okay to just set it. You need to look at your boundaries and look at what just happened here. What the frickin' hell just happened here? Push pause, take a breath, stay calm, connect to your heart, feel where you feel that in your body and speak to the part that feels threatened. Okay. Because a lot of times our angry, hurt, frightened child is running our show as adults. We need to grow our big girl. We need to put our big girl panties on and grow our child parts. We need to be the nourishing, nurturing, kind, compassionate mother to our own child parts. That's our responsibility. So just know that your feelings of anger are in deep service of you. They're showing you exactly what your boundaries are and what you need to do to get back into alignment with yourself. Make sense? I'm going to just check the comments here. Definitely. Yeah, spin cycle, wash and dry, until we decide to choose to do something differently. We're on a constant rinse and repeat cycle of Mobius strip of particles and pieces of abuse and shock and trauma, and it doesn't work for us. So we just need to, be kind enough, be gentle, and really examine that in the shadows. So, the third part of this is that if you're feeling resentful toward people, that up where I've resented my clients, I've resented my partner, I've resented my mother, I've resented my business, and I've resented my child from time to time. And I find that that's the place where you do things for them, right? But damn, do you hate it? Resentment lets you know that you are repeatedly letting somebody cross your boundaries. No means no. And if you have, if you're still in that space of feeling pissed off, it's probably a good clue that you haven't even established any boundaries to start with. And eventually it's going to lead you down a very rocky road of ultimatums and destruction of yourself, destruction of relationships, destruction of the things that you care most about. For me, resentment is like the ugly stepsister of anger. But the message is the same. It's inviting you to see what is my boundary here so that I can establish it and honor it. Step 4, if you're allowing poor behavior at the expense of your own well-being, you're in trouble. If you let people walk all over you and you really stand up for yourself, if you're saying, I'm going to wait until my boss is in a better mood before I ask for a raise, or, I'm going to just suck it up and let my mother-in-law, walk all over me in my own home and tell me how to run my home. That's a clue, and so often I've seen this, and I've been there myself too, where you might even be staying in a relationship with people who just aren't an energetic match for you and your needs anymore a lot longer than you should do because you're afraid of the outcome. So you have to, again, know you are your most valuable asset. When you're okay, everything's okay. And you need to put your needs before the needs of anybody else. And it doesn't mean that their needs are not important. It doesn't mean that there is always responsibility. I'm responsible for my dogs. And yet sometimes, as is in today, in the 2 hours that I sat chopping up sweet potato and pumpkin and messing around with meat, which I don't like. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like all the chickens. I look at all the chicken hearts and my dog's food and I go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Put those little hearts back into the bodies of chickens. I slaughtered a whole freaking 100 chickens today. And I had to go back into the grace and the gratitude and appreciation and give thanks to those animals. But I was resentful for the fact that I wanted to do other things, like come talk to you earlier. And I had to remember why I was doing it in the first place, because I know the value of feeding my dogs raw, live food, not processed, carcinogenic, pretend cardboard kibble. And that down the line, not only am I going to have healthy pets, but I'm going to have a healthy bank account, because I'm not going to be spending 10,000 Rand on some kind of invasive exploratory procedure because my dog suddenly develops diabetes or worse, cancer. So, remember, this is your life and it's your responsibility to ensure that your needs are met and also that you're meeting your responsibilities and obligations. My animals can't feed themselves, and they are such a gift to me. Just as is my child, she chose to have me as her growth partner and her mother. And I know the value of spending time with my daughter over doing something else that's going to make me resentful and ruin the quality time that I have with my daughter. So just remember that. And the last and final point is that just know that the only way that you know how to get what you want and need is to be manipulative, abusive, or passive aggressive. Not wrong. Ding, ding, ding. Wrong, wrong, wrong. If you're in that belief system where you think the only way you get what you want is to be the petulant, angry, self-destructive child that's running your life, and that the only way you get what you want is through hell and high water, it's not okay to be abusive. It's not okay to be passive aggressive. And it's certainly not okay to use manipulation in a way that's not a win-win. I'm all for great manipulation. It's a gift to be able to use that in a way that creates a win-win. So not all manipulation is born equal either. But if if you're lying or you're using self-deprecating humor as a way to get people to notice you or pay attention to you or give you a compliment, maybe you're a martyr and you're proud of it. So look at the archetype that's showing up for you. We're not stagnant. We're moving through the feeding cycle of life all the time. The good, the bad, and the ugly, and the beautiful, brutal parts of it too. So, it isn't a moral judgment. Know that. It's about being human and knowing our frailties and knowing that we make mistakes and we screw up and we're not always in alignment with our highest, greatest good or the good of the people that we love. But if you've been putting your needs on the back burner your whole life, this might be the only way that you know how to get your needs met. As we say with children, don't reward bad behavior. I say the same thing with my animal clients. Don't reward bad, needy behavior. Don't reward the things that are actually abusive. The most powerful thing that you can do for anyone, human or animal, is to allow them to make their own choices and just hold that beautiful, safe container for them to be able to choose. It's a beautiful gift when we can get that right. So if you recognize any of these sort of signs that I've just gone through with you, I'd really invite you to consider joining me for a free webinar. I'm going to do it probably about, 45 to 60 minutes of training on the 30th of April, day before May the 1st, okay? When I'm going to give you some really simple but very potent ways to begin a practice of setting boundaries and letting go of the control that you think that you don't. You don't have control over anything except your choices. So I want, I'm going to be speaking deeper into the shadow dancing, into projections and assumptions, and also looking at the codependent dynamics of repeating past traumas and wondering why you keep attracting the same relationships in your life. And also to let go of the control of what other people are doing. What other people are doing or what other people think is none of your business. So I hope that you join me. I'm going to be giving you my Deal and Deliver script. It's the exact same script that I have used over and over again, because every relationship is a business, right? And if your business of joy is living a good life and doing better and contributing more, you're not going to want to miss this. So I hope that you join me. I'm going to show you how to create your own safety. I'm going to show you how to really return to an expansive state of self-love and truth-telling, and also how to create safety and good boundaries, right? Flexible boundaries, because nothing is set in stone. So if you're interested in looking about how to create more love and compassion and kindness, not just for you, but for the other people, I'm going to give you that in this training so that you can get your needs met in a very respectful, honest, sustainable conversation. Excuse me. And your relationships you're going to see miracles happen, right? This is where the magic happens, where not only do you thrive, but you open the space to other people to create a container of thriving for themselves. And you stop this, this codependency trap that you're kind of going over and over again, doing the same thing with a different variation and expecting a different result. So if that's calling you, give me a hell yes, PM me, and I'll send you the details to join me. We're going to probably do it on Be Live or maybe Zoom. And I'm kind of feeling like 7 o'clock South African time is going to work. So let me know what time was going to work for you, you know, because it's so much more fun and so much more loving to do this together. You know, we can go so much further together than we can apart. And I'd love for you to join me on this. So I want you to start practicing this and have this arsenal of deal and deliver in your toolbox so that on Freedom Day, you know what you need to set yourself free, and you can start training. What better place to do this than with family over a holiday or friends over a holiday? So that's it. Thank you for joining me. Happy Wellness Wednesday. Let me know what you need or what you believe freedom means to you. And if this is going to be helpful for you to come play with me on Monday. All right. And wherever you are, know the power of choice is yours and yours alone. I love you. I see you. I honor you. Go be amazing because you are. Bye.